The first time I saw the fence posts sticking out of the ground, I thought maybe a lost contractor had wandered onto my property. But by the time I spotted the stack of lumber and the crew hammering in the morning sun, it hit me like a bucket of ice water. This wasn't a mistake. It was a takeover. And there she was, standing at the edge of the site like some crowned empress of suburbia, hands on her hips, giving orders. Karen, the HOA president with a mouth like a bullhorn and a knack for making other people's lives miserable. I'd seen her pull stunts before, fines for unapproved flower beds, nasty letters for kids' bikes left out, but this was different. This was my land. I walked up, boots crunching over gravel, and the sound alone made her spin around. "Oh, perfect, you're here," she said, voice dripping with false sweetness. "We're just finalizing the new HOA boundary fence. The board voted, and this strip is now common property." I stared at her, not sure if I wanted to laugh or yell. Common property? That's my pasture. Always has been. Show me where I signed off on giving it to you. She smirked God. That smirk then waved a few folded papers at me. "It's all legal. We have the plat map." Except I'd seen that plat map before. And I knew it like the back of my hand because my grandfather kept the original framed above our fireplace. Karen was banking on me not knowing the difference between a photocopy and the real deal. But this wasn't just about a fence. Anna Maria, it was about her pushing as far as she could, thinking no one would push back. I went inside, pulled my phone, and made 2 calls. The first was to the county surveyor's office, the second to my buddy Mark, who ran a local livestream channel. "Bring your drone," I told him. "You're going to want this on camera." By afternoon, a county truck rolled up, yellow tripod in the back. A man in a reflective vest stepping out with his clipboard. Karen's confident smile flickered for the first time. "This is private HOA business," she told him, stepping in his path. He looked at her like she'd just claimed to own the moon. "Ma'am, if there's a property dispute, it's county business. Step aside." The surveyor planted his tripod, sighted through the lens, marked points with orange flags. I leaned on the fence rail, watching as each measurement confirmed what I already knew. The posts Karen's crew had put in weren't just on my property. They were 20 feet into it. When he walked over with his notes, Karen was already on her phone, muttering about legal action and trespass. But the surveyor's next words made her freeze mid-sentence. "Actually, ma'am, according to county records, this fence is encroaching illegally. On top of that, your HOA's existing fence cuts into the Miller property by 3 feet. Her face went pale like someone had drained every drop of her self-assured smugness and replaced it with shock. One of her workers whispered something to her, and she hissed back, "Keep working." But they didn't. They backed away, eyes flicking between me and the surveyor. Mark's drone hovered above, catching every second, every word, every shade of panic crossing her face. I could feel my pulse steady. For weeks, she'd strutted around like the law bent to her will. Now she was watching it bend the other way, hard. What Karen didn't know was that I'd already started filing a formal encroachment complaint with the county and had a property rights attorney waiting for the green light. The livestream chat was already buzzing, neighbors who'd been steamrolled by her in the past cheering. Strangers asking how they could share the video. One comment scrolled across the screen. "She's done. She just doesn't know it yet." And they were right. But this was just the beginning. I wasn't stopping at reclaiming my 20 feet. If Karen wanted a war over property lines, I was ready to show her how it felt to be on the wrong side of the stakes. And by the time this was over, the only fence she'd be worrying about would be the one keeping her out of everyone else's land. Karen tried to recover, pulling herself up taller, voice trembling but sharp. "This is harassment. My lawyer will have you removed." The surveyor didn't even blink. "Ma'am, you can have all the lawyers you want, but this encroachment notice is going into the county record today." He handed me a carbon copy, his pen still warm from signing it. "Mr. Miller, you have the right to remove any unpermitted structures on your property immediately. I suggest documenting everything." I didn't have to suggest it. Mark was already panning his camera from the county badge to the orange boundary flags, to the stack of HOA lumber sitting illegally on my land. The comments on his live feed were blowing up. People from other neighborhoods were chiming in about similar HOA bullying, a few even recognizing Karen from past news clips. That was when the twist came. From the corner of my eye, I saw another woman walking toward us, a tall, salt and pepper-haired lady with a clipboard. She wasn't dressed like a contractor or a county worker. She stopped beside me, looked at Karen, and said flatly, "You didn't think you'd see me again, did you?" Karen's lips parted in pure shock. "Linda? What I'm doing," Linda interrupted, "is making this official. I just resigned from your HOA board, and I'm here to hand over evidence to the county about all the times you've pulled this stunt before. Photos, emails, false plat maps, you've been playing land grab for years. It ends today." The live stream went wild. My stomach tightened. This was bigger than I thought. Linda explained, loud enough for both the surveyor and the camera to hear, how Karen had been targeting certain properties with boundary adjustments that magically benefited her developer friends. How she'd find people until they gave up their homes, then buy the lots through shell companies. Karen's face went from red to paper white. She lunged forward, hissing at Linda to leave. "You're finished," she spat. "You think you can turn on me?" Linda didn't flinch. "Oh, I'm not turning on you, Karen. I'm exposing you. There's a difference." That was my cue. I walked right up to the illegal fence posts, yanked one out of the ground, and set it down on my side. "These," I said, pointing to the posts, "come out today. Your crew can collect them, or I can drop them at the county impound lot. Your call." The workers didn't even wait for her answer. They started pulling the posts themselves, stacking them neatly at the property edge. Karen tried to rally one last time, pulling out her phone and snapping photos like she could intimidate us into stopping. But the moment the surveyor stepped into her frame and warned, "Ma'am, continued interference will be noted in my report," she backed off, muttering curses under her breath. That evening, the video went viral. Not just locally, nationally. Headlines called it, "HOA President Caught in Land Grab Scheme on Livestream." My phone lit up with messages from strangers thanking me for standing up to her, from neighbors offering to testify, from lawyers offering pro bono help to the people she'd wronged. The county moved fast. Within 2 weeks, Karen received formal notices for property encroachment, abuse of authority, and fraud. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, and for the first time, it wasn't in Karen's living room, it was at the community center, packed with residents. She showed up, tried to speak, but the booze drowned her out. Linda took the podium, holding up a folder. "These are the documents proving Karen knowingly falsified boundary lines to benefit herself and her partners. This is no longer just an HOA matter. It's criminal." She handed the folder to a sheriff's deputy, who didn't even look surprised. The deputy walked over to Karen, quietly said something, and then just like that slipped handcuffs over her wrists. Gasps filled the room, followed by cheers. She tried to keep her chin high, muttering about lawyer tricks and jealous neighbors. But the sight of her being led out past the very people she'd bullied was the closest thing to poetic justice I'd ever seen. Afterward, Linda and I stood outside, watching the crowd scatter into the night air. She gave me a smile that was equal parts relief and vindication. "You know, if you hadn't called the surveyor, she would have gotten away with it again." I shook my head. "No. If you hadn't come forward, people would have still been afraid to speak up. I just pulled a fence post. You pulled the whole rotten thing down." In the weeks that followed, the county restored every property she'd stolen. Footage of the drone-marked boundaries became evidence in court. Karen's developer partners distanced themselves fast, claiming ignorance. But her email chains, those Linda had kept, showed they knew exactly what they were doing. The final blow came when the HOA voted unanimously to dissolve and reform under a new charter, one that stripped the board of its unchecked power. Linda was elected interim president, not because she wanted the title, but because the community trusted her to keep things honest. As for me, I got my pasture back, free of fence posts and power games. Sometimes, on a quiet evening, I still think about that day, the clink of the handcuffs, the sudden silence when Karen realized the game was over, the way her crew wouldn't even meet her eyes. It wasn't just about land. It was about finally standing up to someone who thought the rules didn't apply to them. And maybe that's the lesson here. Bullies can build fences, but they can't stop the truth from climbing over. So what do you think? Was she just a power-drunk neighbor who went too far? Or was this always a calculated scheme from the start?